right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fans Only Sports Network's live show, Unapologetic, with Chet and Duffy. I am your host, Chet, and of course, to my right, my wonderful counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, what a season it's been, man. I can't believe we are finally here at the end of Week 18, and the playoffs are right on the cusp of starting.
Yeah, man, it's going to be exciting. This is the best time of year for wildcard week. Got the whole playoff schedule last night after Sunday Night Football. Very excited for these 6 super wildcard weekend games. I mean, there's a lot of good games in the slate. We got a lot of good broadcasts, and every single game this weekend a rematch of a regular season contest. So this weekend's going to be a lot of take 2 or take 3s for a lot of these teams, and we got 3 division matchups this weekend. Whole lot of stuff happened yesterday to get us to this point, though. So it's really exciting stuff.
It really is. It really is. It's our favorite time of year. And I think, honestly, I was thinking about it yesterday when these games were occurring. And I think I'm going to write my article, those articles that I did last year, where each week I did an article on the predictions for the postseason. I think I should do it again because I think it would be pretty cool to kind of like predict them like last year.
I've been gaining traction on my football TikToks. I just did one ranking every NFL playoff team. Made a couple hours ago.
Oh boy. Well, Duffy's lagging a little bit. Let's see.
Tough list to rank. A lot of injuries. Very tough. Sorry, tough list to rank. A lot of questions. A lot of narratives around a lot of these teams entering the postseason. But we got the full picture ahead of us. And it's gonna be a good couple of weeks in the National Football League. This should be one of the more exciting playoffs, I think, in a while.
Absolutely,
it's be hard to beat last year. So last year was great.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to beat last year's, and it's really gonna just gonna be an interesting postseason. I mean, every single year, once the picture is finally set in stone, we get to see how it all unfolds. It's really interesting to see how it plays out because half the time it ends the way we don't expect it. So. Definitely looking forward to talking about that with all of you these next few weeks. But let's go back to Week 18 for a moment. We're going to discuss, of course, since we're in New England, we got to discuss the Patriots going to Buffalo. Final score in the game, 35-23 Buffalo. The Bills took care of business. New England, they were able to keep in the midst of the game throughout the first half, but come towards the second half after taking a 17-14 lead, Patriots eventually let this game kind of just get out of reach, and they missed the postseason.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone really expected the Pats to go in and make it a game like they did. But first thing I got to say is about this loss yesterday is that I'm glad deep down that I don't have to talk about this shit team anymore, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of a sigh of relief. I saw a TikTok yesterday. It kind of summed up a lot of what I've been saying all year is that this season really just shoved every piece of hurt up of Belichick's ego right back in his hole. So, didn't surround Mac Jones with a good coaching group year 2. Very underwhelming year for the Patriots. I mean, it's a team that went 10-7 last year, started 9-4 last year. It's a team that through 14 weeks last season was the number 1 seed in the AFC. So it was a big disappointment for the Patriots this year. Not a lot of progression made on offense. Defense, like we have been the last decade or so, kept us in a lot of games. But this Patriots team, man, I mean, this is a game that I don't think anyone expected the Pats to win, me and you alike. I mean, we had very much more blowout predictions. I said 31-10 Buffalo.
Yeah.
So it looked like it was going to be like that. I mean, the Patriots allowing 2 kickoff return for touchdowns, 1 to open the game, both to Nyheim Hines. It's really storybook stuff for the Bills. After the adversity they fought last week, as Jim Nantz said on the air, storybook. It really was.
Yeah.
The Pats really had no chance to win that game. I was surprised they hung in it for as long as they did. I think they forced 3 turnovers yesterday. They kept the Bills' offense in check. Only held them to 3 scoring drives, which is probably the best defense the Pats have played against the Bills this season. But those 2 special teams plays really hurt the Pats. There's 2 picks in the fourth quarter by Mac Jones, 3 in the second half by Mac Jones. Sure, the last one wasn't really his fault, but the first 2, that first one especially was a killer Pats moving down the
Oh,
field.
yeah. He was trying to lead Nelson Aguilar, and it went right to Tre'Davious White.
Overprotecting Tre'Davious White. You can't do that with no hands Nelson. But it's tough. And Mac had his best offense of the year in that first half. I mean, he was 11-13, I think it was, 2 touchdowns, just under 150 yards passing. But he was spectacular in the first half. There's a lot of bright light for the Patriots in a game like that. I really thought they wouldn't play that well, but
yeah,
in the day, I mean, they just didn't get it done. Couldn't stop Buffalo in the second half offensively. You had those 2 really long touchdown drives, just amazing throws from Josh Allen.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where I'm glad we had the bar set low. If this was a loss against the Jets or Dolphins in Week 18 on the road, I'd be a lot more disappointed. But it's the Bills. I think they're the second best team in the NFL right now, and the Pats when they were in, but Pittsburgh, Miami won as well, and Miami took that last spot. So it sucks.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I mean, something I did want to kind of point out that I like what you said there was honestly that was probably one of the best games the offense has actually put together in quite some time in terms of the first half of that game. They actually look good. I was surprised. I mean, they came in with a good game plan. They definitely made the right decisions, but there were just times where once again, you just see Mac you see the discomfort of him in the pocket. You see him make the easy throw that either leads the guy too far, leads too behind, or it just doesn't gain enough yards to get you the first down you need. And so at the end of the day, the Patriots, they had a solid game plan. The Bills, they're just the better team, unfortunately. That's just the way it panned out. You look at the stats in this one. Right there, Mac Jones, only 11 yards shy of tying Josh Allen in yards in the game at 243. 3 touchdowns in the game and 3 picks. Pretty sure that's the most touchdown passes he threw all year in a game. And
only 14 this year for Mac Jones in 14 starts.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, definitely a much more bigger dip in production than we had seen in the previous season. Devontae Parker leading the team in receptions and touchdowns, had 2 in this one, and in yards, of course. However, you look over at the Bills roster, you see Josh Allen, 254 yards, 3 touchdown passes on the day. One of those going to Stephon Diggs, who had over 100 yards on the day. John Brown, being signed to the practice squad not too long ago, promoted back as a starter.
I was crazy, dude. When they said John Brown, I was like, John Brown?
Yeah, the John Brown.
The old Arizona Cardinal, John Brown. Yeah, it was John Brown.
Yeah.
That pissed me off a little bit. After right in it. It was 21-17. Josh Allen, man, rolls out to his right, throws a nuke to John Brown. And then similar play in that fourth quarter with Stephon Diggs, threw another absolute laser beam, probably one of the best throws I've ever seen Josh Allen make for that touchdown. The Pats, they shut down Stephon Diggs up until then in the second half. He had no catches in the second half up until then, and then took the top right off of Marcus Jones, or Jonathan Jones it was.
Dude, here's the funny part about that play. Tony Romo totally freaking jinxed it, because I remember us sitting there with my brother, and he just goes, Stephon Diggs has been really quiet. Gets like a 40-yard TD. It's like, shut up, Tony Romo. Like, sometimes he is just too good at predicting what's going to happen. Like, he's very good at that. I'll give him that as an analyst. He's definitely one of the better analysts in terms of predicting plays that are about to occur. But sometimes he gives too much of the commentator's jinx. And I'm just like, dude, just shut up, please.
No, I hate when the Pats and Bills play, or just like any Bills game, and Allen or Nance and Romo have the game. They just absolutely lick Josh Allen the whole time.
Oh yeah,
they call him Josh by his first name, like he's their fucking boy or something. It's annoying, dude, and they just lick him the whole game.
They really do.
They really just kiss up to him. I know Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Tony Romo ever was. I know Romo gives a lot of respect to the great quarterbacks. We saw a lot when Brady was on the Pats. It was the same type of broadcast. He loved Brady. He loves Mahomes. But with Josh Allen, I mean, dude, they were just sucking him. There was that play off the punt return, dude, off the muff punt, when the Pats recovered the punt off of the Bills player's heel. Romo was like, "Oh, I think New England's gonna have the ball right here." Like, he sounded like disappointed. Pissed me off.
The commentary was pissing me off too, because I mean,
questionable, very questionable. And yes, I know the league was probably rooting for the Bills after the adversity they faced last week with their teammate. It would have been tough not to root for the Bills in this situation. Me and you are commentators ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's just really irked me the whole game, man.
Yeah, and something about the commentary that pissed me off was, okay, like I understand, okay, this is going to sound insensitive. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I'm just pointing out, okay.
I'm excited.
Damar Hamlin, we all know what happened last Monday, but throughout that entire first half, maybe even the whole game, I tuned out after a little bit once the Patriots really started to go downhill in that game. They just kept talking about it. They kept going and going and going, being, look at this. This city is really rallying behind this. And it's like, okay, they've said it like 6 times already. I get it. Like, at the end of the day, Damar Hamlin, I'm so happy that he, that he's fine, that he's healthy, that he's getting back to where he originally was before the injury. But it's not like he died. They're literally like just really like kind of like milking as much as they could out of that cow on that topic. And for me, I was just like, dude, just talk about the game. Like, it's over. It's over. Like, I get it. I support everything with, Damar Hamlin and everything. But in terms of the commentary in that game, I was getting mad because I'm like, dude, just talk about the game. Like, I get it. This is a very emotional moment for the Bills, but this is the game. Just like stay focused on the present.
Yeah.
That's just me.
It was tough. It's tough not to bring that up, obviously.
Oh yeah, I know that.
But it was just tough. There's really an atmosphere in which the Pats were never going to win. I'm going to be honest.
No,
Pats just weren't going to win that game.
Yeah,
and that was a big reason why. Just the situation they were in. That's why I think the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl now.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Of all the adversity they faced this year, and it's just sucks, dude.
It does, and of course, Patriots, their season has come to an end, and we won't discuss it tonight. But on Thursday, I definitely want to have some more in-depth discussion on the offseason for New England because this team has a lot of needs that they need to really get in. And I feel like we can get off to a good start on Thursday to really kind of talk and really flesh out a lot of those changes that need to go on in this organization if they want to see them back in the position they were a year ago, which is in the postseason. They were on the cusp this year. There just wasn't enough there for them to actually take that next step forward. So a lot to work on. But to be honest, as you said, Duffy, I totally agree. I am just sick and tired of talking about this team at this point. They have just been they've been disappointing, but they've just been too like this all year long. And it's just like, it's too much, I'm just glad that we don't have to talk about them potentially getting killed by the Bengals next week if they beat the Bills this week. Because regardless, that was going to happen.
That's what would have happened, man. But I think the Pats would have had the best fight against them of all 3 of the teams they could have faced. But hey, That's it for the 2022 Pats. You won't hear any more from us about them this year until the off season. But yeah, man, it's tough sledding.
Yeah, definitely very tough sledding. Definitely a positive note to look at about these Patriots before we conclude is definitely looking at some of the stats. And I think the number one thing you have to talk about there is Ramondre Stevenson finally eclipsing 1,000 yards as a tailback for the New England Patriots, 1,040 rushing yards on the year. Mac Jones was 3 yards shy of passing 3,000 yards on the season. Definitely not the best season we saw out of him. And, of course, Damian Harris kind of finishing the year off a little bit stronger. Of course, he was injured for most of it. No 1,000-yard receivers on the year. Jacoby Myers, though, 804 yards, was 200 shy of reaching 1,000, and he led the team in touchdowns with 6. So that concludes our talk on the Patriots until Thursday when we go over some more in-depth look and statistics from this year. But we will move in to the playoffs shortly. We're going to talk about Week 18 a little bit because there were a lot of good games this past week, Duffy. I mean, kind of looking at the bunch, I think the one that I think we should talk about is the Jags-Titans game because that game, I didn't get to tune into most of it, but it was just that ending was you couldn't have written it any better, especially in that second half.
Yeah, tons of big implications this weekend, big games. One of them being that Titans Jags game. I mean, me and you, we got a little bit villainous after this game. Talk to We're gonna talk about this a little bit later on the night. But hey man, that was a good game. And Jags were this close to really blowing it at home in front of home fans. The moment looked too big for Trevor Lawrence at times. That was one of his worst games of the year. I would
Oh
say.
yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach. He was going to keep his team in it all game. Josh Dobbs had a really good game until turned the ball over twice in the second half, a pick and the game-losing fumble. But that was a good game plan by the Titans going in on the road. Touchdown underdogs. No one expected them to win, but they kept it alive from head to toe. And Jags, they just did enough. Rayshon Jenkins, he's made game-winning plays all year. He had that pick six against the Cowboys to win it in overtime a few weeks ago. And now he had that strip sack to set up the fumble return for a touchdown. Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen, being the game-winning touchdown scorer. It was a great game by the Jags. I mean, they really did not look good for most of it. Got down 10-0 pretty early on. Trailed for most of the game. Pretty much
Yeah.
all of it really had the lead. But they did enough. They just did enough. Trevor Lawrence, 20 of 32, 212 yards and a touchdown in the game. Missed a wide open touchdown to Zay Jones, if you remember that. Had some really bad balls in the game. This Jags team only 19 rushing yards on the night. Can't do that in the playoffs. You got the Chargers next week. And that's gonna be one of the best games of the week, I think. Trevor Lawrence in prime time. Al Michaels coming back to NBC to call this game on Saturday night. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh, is he going to be with Chris Collinsworth for this one?
He'll be with Dungy.
Oh, Tony Dungy. Okay,
when Al Michaels left, they agreed that he would be able to come back for NBC playoff game.
That's awesome. I'm glad because he definitely wasn't.
He's a legend.
He is a legend of NBC, and I think there were some Thursday night games that he totally wasn't really too invested in.
Yeah, there were a lot of times where he just sounded pissed.
Oh yeah,
he just didn't sound the same. I don't think him and Herb Street had a good dynamic. But
because Herb Street's a college commentator, right? Yeah, because half the time when he talk about players, he mentioned what college they came from, and I'm sitting there being like, do you even watch the NFL? I feel like you should if you're a college football commentator, because these guys are going into the league. But every time he's talking about their past, and I'm like, dude, stop talking about that. Talk about what's going on in their careers right now. I don't care about when they were in college. So
Herb Street was the third option though on Prime. They tried getting Troy Aikman at first.
They
tried getting Sean McVay to come out of retirement or just come retire, which he might do. It's another thing we got to talk about later. But hey, Jags, let's get back on track. The Jags, this is a team that has been heating up at the perfect time. This team was 4-8, first 4-8 team to make the playoffs since the 2008 Chargers. I read that today.
Wow.
Won the division at 8-8 back when it was a 16-game schedule. The Jags, no one expected this. They were dead to right in the division. They were 4 games behind with 7 games to go.
And of course,
they won 6 of their last 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
And the Titans lost their last 7 games. So
exactly. And that's just the best way to put it is the Jags really somehow just put something together mid-season, whereas the Titans sitting at 7-3 lost their last 7 to miss the postseason and ultimately let the Jaguars sneak in. And the fact is, in this one, the biggest highlight you have to talk about with this game is it wasn't Trevor Lawrence putting the team on his back. It was the team that really came together in this one. The run game, ETN only had 17 yards on the ground. Lawrence
game was non-existent.
Exactly. Yeah, it sucked.
Clamped him up.
And Lawrence had one of his weakest performances of the year, but the defense came to play. They knew they were the last line of defense in this game in terms of pushing the Jags to the postseason. And the team really rallied and came together. And this is why they're in. This is why I like this Jags team. They're a brotherhood that is really a good mesh of guys that have just really put this team in the spot it needs to be. And that's the big reason why they won on What was it?
Saturday.
Saturday, exactly. I was getting my dates
Yeah.
mixed up.
And we'll have a playoff game in Duval County for the first time in 5 years. So, and before 2017, I think it was as many as 18 years. So,
Yeah.
hey, it's a new era in Jacksonville. I'm excited for this. This is one of my favorite games of the weekend, Jacksonville and Los Angeles. It's really going to show which one of these two young quarterbacks is who's made for this moment. I mean, everyone's going to say it's Herbert because the way he's been the last couple of years, but he's been banged up this year. The Chargers team has blown a lot of leads in the past. Jacksonville, though, 5 wins in a row. They've had some statement wins this year. They beat the Chargers in Week 3. They smoked them. They beat the Ravens to kickstart, this kind of thing they're on now. That was the first of their 6 or 7 victories they had, and they beat the Cowboys. Came back from 17 down in that game. So this Jaguars team, they fight adversity. They're very resilient, and this young team, see what they can do in the playoffs. That was a big win they had on a Saturday night to win the division. So took every area of the game. It was the defense that really won them that game. And, they've been a much improved unit this year. I think on Saturday night we're going to see this could be one of the closer games of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one final thought about this, I think we are officially seeing the changing of the guard in the AFC South. I think the Titans are now going to officially take that back seat, and the Jaguars are going to take that number 1 spot.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I mean, this is a team that was picking first each of the last 2 years. Doing things we've never seen from Jacksonville before. Winning their last 5 games. Having a potent offense, a great receiving core. I mean, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, and Marvin Jones all had career years this year. All had not Marvin Jones, but Zay Jones. They all had their career highs in catches at least with 70 plus receptions on the season. So
yeah, and all those players
has changed the culture. That's why he was the best hire of every head coach.
Oh yeah,
off season. I know it's kind of a given, in my opinion. I mean, he's just been an absolute stud. I mean, you can argue Brian Dable too, but Doug Peterson, though, Super Bowl winning coach, he made Carson Wentz look like an MVP that one year. And now Trevor Lawrence, we might see it loading for him soon. I'm very excited for this Jags team, if you can't tell. I mean, we got the Jags flag in my house. And Eric Hansen, my roommate Chuck, Jags fan, but I know for a fact he did not watch that game Saturday night because he's a casual.
Because he's a casual.
My boy Riley Crozier did, though. It's my guy. We were stabbing during the game, and I'm rooting for him and the Jags.
Yeah, definitely excited to see what this Jaguars team manages to put together. A couple more games to discuss. I think one of them that we need to discuss before we get to the big one is without a doubt that Seahawks game against the Rams. That game was close, and it ended up going to overtime where the Seahawks took it by a final score of 19-16 and managed to find their way into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, that was a crazy game. I'm just going to picture up real quick for this game. But, yeah, Seahawks, this is a team stuck into playoffs just barely. We'll get to the reason why they got to the playoffs in a sec. But, hey, the Seahawks team, I've been high on them all year, but, they have not looked great the last few weeks. Really sloppy game yesterday. Really got down early. We're trailing for much of the game, and took overtime to beat the Rams. Could be Baker Mayfield's last start for a while. We'll see. But yeah, I'm proud of Geno Smith. That's my guy this year. Comeback player of the year in my opinion. Finished the year with 30 touchdowns and 11 picks, and actually broke Russell Wilson's record for most yards in a season by a Seahawks quarterback yesterday. Albeit 17 games, but type of year he's had. It's been a fantastic year for Seattle. Now they're going to play the Niners next week in San Francisco. Will be the first game of the slate. But yesterday's game against the Rams, it's what they needed. And we saw the emotion from Geno Smith yesterday after the game and the interview, and it's just great for Seattle, man. I mean, it's a team that no one expected to make the playoffs. It's supposed to be a rebuilding year. I mean, we saw a lot of people project the Seahawks to win, 4 or 5, even 3 games in some predictions. There was a quarterback battle back in August between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. As crazy as it sounds now.
Yeah.
This team, I'm not too high on them in the playoffs. I hate to say it because
Yeah.
I've fanned them all year, but um, this is Niners Seahawks take 3 now. Sets up a chance for the Seahawks to get their revenge on a Niners team that really outplayed them severely both times this season.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, based on what we saw in this game, Smith turned the ball over twice. However, had a very strong run game out of Kenneth Walker, 29 carries for over 114 yards. Tyler Lockett catching the lone touchdown in this one. And of course, it was just a great divisional matchup that we got to see. Of course, the Rams have nothing to play for except spoils, and they nearly managed to spoil the Seahawks season. However, the Seahawks managed to battle adversity and got some help about the team we're going to talk about in just a moment. But Geno Smith really proving all those doubters wrong. This Seahawks unit that had Russell Wilson last year, who missed the postseason last year, manages to make it without him in his first season being gone. And Smith breaking Russell Wilson's breaking the Seahawks quarterback passing record in just his first year starting. It's a story that couldn't have been written any better. And for the Seahawks, I definitely would like to see them perform well in the postseason. Will it happen, though?
Yeah.
It will be tough. I mean, hey, but if it's a team that they want to have a chance against, the Niners are definitely, in my opinion, the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, literally. At the moment.
Never write off a divisional opponent that you play 3 times a year, ever. If it's the Rams, I'd say it's the Niners in a heartbeat. But I think the Seahawks.
Except for last year. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Niners beat the Rams twice last year and then lost them in the game that mattered the most. But I agree with that. It's so hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. We saw it 2 years ago in the COVID year with, Brady getting swept by the Saints and then going into New Orleans in I was going to say hostile environment, but there were no fans in the crowd in a road environment and beating the Saints. I mean, we haven't seen a team lose to a team 3 times in a year, I think, since Panthers and Saints in 2017. But hey, this is going to be a duel. Like you mentioned, I mean, you can't write off a team that's going out for take number 3. But this Niners team, hot AF. I mean, they have scored 30 plus in 6 of the last 7 games. This team has been absolutely on fire, looking like the best team in the NFC, but you never know. I mean, Seattle, they have a great head coach in Pete Carroll. Really good offense. The Seahawks, one of the most fun offenses to watch in the league this year. Great run game with Kenneth Walker, great receivers with DK Metcalf, and now a slightly banged up Tyler Lockett, but he's still playing a bunch of reps. And Geno Smith has been lights out, throwing dots all year. But hey, yeah, for the Seahawks, you gotta look at those first 2 games. Week 2 against the Niners, when a different team for both squads. I mean, that was the game that Trey Lance got hurt and Jimmy Garoppolo came back in. Different team but then a month ago, week 15, I mean, the Niners stormed into Seattle, only scored 21 points. That was the one game that they didn't cross 30 in the last 2 months or so. But Seahawks just came out so flat. They came out really flat in both these games offensively. They got to really start off hot, score on that first drive, and gain some momentum. They scored 13 points. They scored 20 points in 2 games against these boys, and that last touchdown, their only touchdown on offense was late in the 4th quarter of the second matchup. So Seahawks really got to reevaluate that tape. Watch the Niners since then. Because a few of these teams, they've been able to score on the Niners in recent weeks. I mean, you saw with the Raiders the other week with Jared Stidham. You're telling me Seahawks can't do that with Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett? I don't think so. I mean, I'm excited for this matchup. Even it's the first one on the slate this weekend in Seattle. They deserve a playoff spot. Even though they were kind of cold, very cold actually, in November, December, they won their last 2 that mattered the most. They found a way in. So they deserve to be here, man. I'm excited to see them play.
Absolutely, as am I. Can't wait to see what the playoffs hold for them. But now we're going to go to the Sunday Night Football matchup that everybody was waiting for, and Duffy and I painfully got wrong in terms of our prediction. I'm sure most of the country got this pick called wrong, but the Lions took care of business for the first time in as far as history can remember. The Lions go to Lambeau Field and take down Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. Final score 20-16. The Lions, they needed Seattle to lose if they wanted to have any chance of breaking through in the postseason. That didn't happen, so they just looked at each other and said, F it. If we can't get in, we'll take these guys out of it too. And they took care of business. Jared Goff throwing no touchdown passes in the game, did throw for over 200 yards. However, the run game, very strong run attack of Jamal Williams, 16 carries, 72 yards, 2 touchdowns. And with those 2 touchdowns, he managed to surpass Barry Sanders' single season rushing touchdown record on the Detroit Lions. That is quite a record to take.
Yeah.
Especially,
even, you could say, you can make the 17 game argument, but that's crazy. We had what, 17 touchdowns this year, Jamal Williams?
17.
I mean, jeez. He was a stud all year, absolute workhorse. Just passed 1,000 yards. Only had 2 games with 100+ yards rushing, but shit. Detroit. Really, they go into Green Bay and pull off one of this magnitude. They've actually won in Green Bay 4 of their last 8 meetings dating back to 2015 after going 24 straight years without winning there, or 23 straight years without winning there.
Yeah.
But, this is the 3rd time the Lions have swept the Packers in the last 5 years, actually. As crazy as that sounds, I mean, there were a couple of years where Rodgers got banged up or the Packers just, rested starters in the last game of the year. But this was very unforeseen, and like you said, we were very wrong about this. We were very, very confident that the Packers were going to take care of business at home, and that was just not the case at all.
Well, the story was like too perfect almost. It was set up in the magical thing that we see out of Aaron Rodgers, but once again, the trend in Green Bay has gone from sky high. And as we've seen each season, the stock has just plummeted slowly. And honestly, I wouldn't even say slowly at this point. It just went from being at its peak, where 2 years ago, when you and I first started this podcast, we were like, this team has a chance to take down Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home and make it to the Super Bowl. And ever since then,
very first podcast, and I don't remember who I picked that game.
I think we both took Tampa.
I think we did because I got burned by the Bucs the week before against the Saints. I think I took Tampa that game.
But it's been a quick slope downwards for this team, and it started this season really with the departure of Devontae Adams going off into Las Vegas, but then Aaron Rodgers managing to stay with the team. However, there's even talk now that we won't even see Allen Lazard next year. He does not intend to return to Green Bay, he said after last night. And this team goes into the offseason now where they could have won and been in, and people would have been happy by that result. But this is not the result anybody expected in any way, shape, or form. Aaron Jones fumbling, losing the ball in this one, and then Rodgers' late interception in the game resulted in the Lions taking full advantage and managing to take this one away from Green Bay in front of their home crowd.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Packers lost this game. There was a lot of emotion around this game, like you mentioned. I mean, the Packers had won their last 4 contests before this. Could have been 2 teams that started 4-8 this year that made the playoffs, but the Packers couldn't get the job done last night. And we've seen years, decades worth of Rodgers just bullying the Lions. We've seen 2 win-in games or division clinching games in which Rodgers has beat the Lions in 2014 and 2016. And a sweet revenge for Detroit. This is their first winning season in 5 years. A team that started 1-6 on the year. Can you believe that? No, 1-7. 1-7 on the year, actually. Sorry. 1-7 or 1-6. Sorry, they won 8 of their last 10 games. If they had just beat the Carolina Panthers the other week, they would be in the playoffs right now, which is crazy to think about. They'd be the 6th seed right now in Minnesota. But it is what it is. This is a great year for the Lions, great rebuild year, great pick-me-up year, and Jared Goff will return as the starting quarterback next year 100%. But will Aaron Rodgers? Yeah. No one knows. And you saw Rodgers' very cryptic interview last night at the podium, saying that everyone's have to analyze when they want to hop off the carousel one day. And, sure, Rodgers signed the fat extension before the year, $50 million a year for 3 years. But whether it's in Green Bay or not, I'm not sure. I'm leaning no, honestly. I don't think he's going to return. I think he just played his last game as a Green Bay Packer. Just crazy to think about, crazy to say.
Yeah.
Almost blasphemous to even ponder the thought of Aaron Rodgers suiting up for another team. He's a legend in every right, every term of the word. He even said last night, I think I've accomplished enough in my career. I would walk away with no regrets, which is interesting, which is very interesting to
Yeah.
but you know, it was definitely a crazy scene. I wasn't expecting that at all. Detroit, they trailed for most of the game. Didn't take the lead until the fourth quarter. Made some big plays in the fourth, big defensive plays, huge stops. I think the Packers only had 7 points in the second half, one touchdown,
Mm-hmm.
to momentarily take the lead again. But Detroit, they just played a great game, and they were trying to play spoiler for their boys up in Seattle, and it worked. They did, and can't believe it. And it's surreal thinking that we've seen Aaron Rodgers play his last game as a Packer. I know we're anticipating that Brady's going to play his last game as well. If these guys, leave the league at the same time, it would break headlines. It would be the absolute start of a new chapter in the National Football League. And I honestly hate to see it, man.
You would.
It hurts. It hurts a little bit.
Yeah. And in a way, all good things must come to an end. We might have seen the last game of Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay Packers uniform. And we'll see how that entails for the Packers going forward, because this franchise now finishes third overall in the division, a spot that we didn't expect, especially a team that's been at the top of the division for years to come. And it was a quick decline to the spot that they finished in this season. A lot of new resurgence and talent in the NFC North. And we'll see how time really plays out for these teams going forward. But
sure will.
That is our recap there on some of the top games of Week 18. We'll move into the playoff picture really quickly, just to kind of give you a preview of everything. So, of course, in the AFC and the NFC, your number one seeds, Chiefs, secure their number one seed, home field advantage, and, of course, the Eagles as well. So your matchups, we won't really discuss them yet, but we'll just tell you all those matchups that we got going on.
That's for Thursday's show,
Yeah, of course. We got to keep you coming back for more. But, of course, Saturday kicks off Wild Card Weekend as the Seattle Seahawks travel to the San Francisco 49ers at 4:30. Then you got the Chargers going to Jacksonville at 8:15, followed up by Sunday, 3 games on the slate. Miami to Buffalo in a division wild card game. The Giants at Minnesota at 4:30, and then at 8:15, another Week 18 rematch between the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, who just managed to secure the AFC North yesterday. Burrow trying to get back to the Super Bowl, of course. And then Monday night, this is a good one. The Dallas Cowboys heading down to Tampa to play Tom Brady and the Bucs.
Yeah. A lot of good games in the NFC and AFC playoff pictures. It's going to be extremely intense. And I love the primetime games we got with the 2 young quarterbacks in Jacksonville and Los Angeles on Saturday night. Then we got Ravens, Bengals Sunday night, which will only be good if Lamar Jackson plays. I pray to God that he's playing.
I think he will.
I think this is kind of like a ego thing, or not even ego thing, but give me my money thing for Lamar Jackson. I mean, he hasn't been paid yet again. He's been holding out now 2 years in a row in December because of an injury. I mean, last year maybe more severe, but this year sprained PCL. And we've seen guys come back from that. He was only supposed to miss 3 games. He's now, if he misses this week, going on 6 games that he's missed, which I think is kind of crazy. I think that should get talked about more.
I guarantee he's coming back. I think he's going to play.
If he doesn't play, this needs to be talked about. I mean, Lamar Jackson, kind of giving up on the team 2 years in a row. In a way, I'm not saying I know how severe his injuries are, but this is an injury we've seen people come back from during the season. I mean, you can make the argument because of his style of play as a running quarterback, but this Ravens team hasn't even surpassed 17 points in the 5-6 games that he's already missed. So it's very tough for the Ravens. It's very tough to see where they land in the playoff landscape right now. Is that 6th seed could have won the division probably if Lamar played the rest of the season, but. Hey, and then we got Cowboys Bucks primetime. That was a given for a primetime slot. Dallas Cowboys against Tom Brady. Everyone knew that was coming. That's the Monday night game. Should be
Yeah,
pretty awesome, that Monday night game
it
throughout
should
the
be.
week. And,
This was the game that kicked off the season. The
yeah,
same exact setting and everything.
could be Tom Brady's last game, so
Unless he somehow pulls some Tom Brady magic that we
unless he
see every
does,
postseason.
I wouldn't be surprised. Cowboys choking and Tom Brady winning a playoff game, but not making our picks yet.
Nope.
But a lot of good games. We got Seattle, San Francisco, which we just talked about. I think that Vikings-Giants game is going to be really close.
Oh, yeah. Especially the way it finished in the regular season with that Vikings comeback.
61-yard game-winning field from Greg Joseph. I think that'll be the biggest kind of likelihood for an upset in terms of a lower seed winning this weekend. I know the Giants are kind of a mid-team. They're not great by any stretch of the words. They don't do a lot of things great, but the Vikings, they've been a lot of close games this year. They're 11-0 one-score games this year, and I think they might get caught back up to them. But they're a good football team. Then we got Dolphins, Bills. Dolphins played the Bills really hard twice this year.
Yeah, beating them in one.
Beating them in the first one, yeah.
In Buffalo, I think, right?
No, I was in Miami. He had the infamous butt punt. But then in the snow the other week, Dolphins had a lead against the Bills in the fourth quarter, and then Josh Allen did Josh Allen-esque stuff and couldn't get the season sweep on him. That'll be a close game if Tua plays. I'm not sure if he will. Like McDaniel has no comment on that. If Tua and Lamar play this weekend, I think any of these games can go either way.
Oh, yeah.
AFC, genuinely. I mean, those are big indicators. I mean, do I think the Dolphins beat the Bills? Probably not, but it'll be a one-score game, I believe. But a lot of good games. Fucking hyped.
A lot. I'm hyped too. I'm very excited to discuss it this Thursday. But we're gonna finish off.
I just love the wild card. Sorry to cut you off, but I just love the wild card weekend now since the playoff expansion, man. I mean, we got six awesome games over 3 days. Used to be 2 days that first year, but then they added the Monday Night Football game last year, which I think is kind of questionable depending on what seeds they're playing. I think they have to kind of keep it to the 4 and 5 seeds in those games because, you can't – I don't know how I feel about the Monday Night playoff game, genuinely. I really don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, but we'll see. It should be a good broadcast. It's ESPN.
I think it's kind of rat, giving teams short weeks in the playoffs. But hey, last week we saw the Rams in that Monday Night playoff game. They got into the Super Bowl. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should shut up. But I'm hyped. So excited.
I can't wait.
Excited for Thursday's show so we can make our picks. Pumped.
Yeah. And as of right now, I'm honestly, Duffy, we should just predict all the playoff matches along with the regular season records that we have for our locks and upsets, because I definitely want to mention those right now.
We should just do every game. Because, you're trying to catch up to me.
Yeah.
I think I have like a 4-game lead on you.
So right now, hold on,
you updated after this week?
I did. So give me 1 sec. I'm logging back in because it signed me out.
Steelers and who else did I have?
So basically our picks. So we picked 2 games each last week for locks and upsets. I took the Jags, the Bengals, and then for my upsets, I took the Jets and the Commanders. I got 3 out of 1. You had the Seahawks, you had the Steelers, then you had the Bucks and the Bears. So the records right now, Chet 20-17, Duffy 22-14-1 as of right now. So the standings have really been narrowed up until this point.
2.5 game lead. Okay.
Yeah. So definitely a lot. I'm very excited too to see how this plays out. So we'll move into the final segment here of the show, which is, of course, our top 3 players of the week. So when we look back at week 18 and honestly the rest of this season, it was a very cool idea that we finally got to implement this type of thing into our show. It's definitely added a whole new layer, I think, in terms of recognizing players who play well in games. So starting at the number 3 spot, we combined it with 2 players from the Detroit Lions. We took Kirby Joseph and then, of course, Jamal Williams in this one. Jamal Williams finishing with 16 carries for 72 yards and 2 TDs, surpassing Barry Sanders' single-season touchdown rushing mark. And, of course, Kirby Joseph playing an unbelievable game throughout on defense.
Yeah, Kirby Joseph, 2 picks in the game, 1 called back for the second one. was Rodgers' potential last throw as a Packer. Got the interception in the fourth quarter. He's picked off Rodgers 3 times this year. I don't think anyone's ever done that in a year. Picked off Aaron Rodgers 3 times. This is a guy who has not thrown double-digit picks in a season since until this year, since 2010. It was 12 years.
And that was the year they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. He threw 11 that year. And, just a great game from Kirby Joseph. I saw a tweet that he owns Aaron Rodgers. Had 2 against him back in week whatever it was, 10 or 9 or something. Mm-hmm. And Jamal Williams, you mentioned before the game and on the pod, breaking the Barry Sanders single season touchdown mark for the Lions. Can't go unnoticed. He's had a great year. Had 2 more on the ground last night to help his team win and get the Seahawks into the playoffs. So I got to give him a lot of love too for what he's been able to do all season, and especially last night in a game like that.
Absolutely. Definitely great performances from both players. They deserve the number 3 spot. Now we'll move up to that number 2 spot. And this is a man who I didn't even think would make it this year on our list, but he finally broke through. Russell Wilson, taking care of business in LA, of course. Yeah. Chargers, I mean, they did have Herbert start surprisingly throughout this one. Final score of the game, 31-28. Russell Wilson, 283 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Only a week or 2 after Nathaniel Hackett was given the boot out of Denver. And I think this team's going to do a lot better without Hackett as the head coach as of this point. Wilson looked excellent yesterday. And Jerry Jeudy, 5 catches from him for 154 yards, a big game. And for Russell Wilson, 8 carries for 18 yards. Not really running a whole lot this year, but a great game for him for a huge win for the Broncos at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we saw 2 really good games from Russell Wilson to end the year after Nathaniel Hackett got fired. The game against the Chiefs last week and now yesterday against the Broncos. Good way to end the season for Denver. Most points they've scored all year. 31 yesterday, and they had 24 the week before. I mean, this is an offense that really should not have been this bad. Average the league worst, 16 points a game this year. I mean, it was fucking horrendous. But Russell Wilson, I think with a new coach next season, I heard that Sean Payton might be in the mix to be the next Broncos coach, which I really believe will elevate Denver to winning more of these games next season, especially with a guy like Russell Wilson under center. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and we can't forget what he did in Seattle. 9 Pro Bowls in 10 years in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
And
it's just funny how the Broncos country let's ride like mantra that he kept pushing this whole year isn't going to really hold up for this season, but next year could be promising for this unit.
Sure can. And I'm glad to have him on the list. And I think it's kind of just an homage to what he's been able to, go through this season. Mm-hmm. I think after Nathaniel Hackett left, it was more clear. Sure, it was only a 2-game sample size, but both against playoff teams, the Chiefs and Chargers, those last 2 games, and Russell Wilson, did not look like the problem at all. So I think he'll be back next year. I've always been a big Russ guy. I'm a big believer in him. So I think great players do great things, and we saw something great from him yesterday and the season for Denver.
Yeah. Awesome. I've been able to watch Russell Wilson since I was, I believe, in middle school, maybe late elementary school, that sort of thing. And he's just been a quarterback that I've always loved.
You were in 9th grade when he got drafted.
Yeah. So high school, basically. Since high school, I've been watching this guy play, and he's had amazing seasons. And it sucks that this was the first year we haven't really seen him do well. But to end the season on this note, it's definitely a good one to feel for the Broncos, and especially for Russell Wilson. Looking forward to a better season next year, hopefully. So welcome to the list for top players of this season here on Unapologetic, Russell Wilson. Now we'll move to the number 1 spot. And, of course, we mentioned him earlier. Josh Allen, take that number 1 spot, my man, because after really overcoming adversity with the horror that we saw on Monday Night Football, throwing 3 touchdowns in the game for 254 yards, and, of course, running the ball 9 times for 16 yards, and over 100 yards being thrown to Stephon Diggs in a big win over the Patriots to push the Bills into that number 2 spot that they're locked in at now, and just a great way for him to end the year.
Yeah, I think we should edit this a little bit and really make it just the Bills in general. I mean, I think Nyheim Hines is probably the best player of the week across the NFL. When I really think about it, like 2 return touchdowns, something that has never been I think it's been done, but I couldn't tell you when the last time it happened was.
And of course, one of them was 101 yards. The other one was 96.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was great. It was great stuff. I think that kind of just with Josh Allen, he threw 2 absolute laser beams yesterday. Like, had 2 of the most sick throws I've seen all season against the Pats secondary, which was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
But that Bills team, fighting through adversity, had a very tough week, and we're able to effectively end our favorite team's season at home in front of their crowd. And a lot of that to do with Josh Allen, but I think the number one player this week is the Bills.
Yes. Let's
There's
give
really
it to the Bills.
Really no clear-cut number one player, to be honest, this week. I mean, Josh Allen was kind of just Mickey of us. I'm trying to find the Mickey. All right, little Mickey. I can't find the other one.
And hey, he's going to have a very interesting interview coming up in the next few weeks with ESPN.
Who?
LeBron.
About what?
You didn't know that? My brother told me the other day he's doing that ESPN exclusive interview. The last time he did this was when he made the announcement he was going to the Miami Heat.
Wait, really?
Yes, that's going to be coming soon. So when he has this interview, this probably means he's leaving the Lakers. He's probably, dude, like it's been in the headlines. LeBron's probably going to force a trade.
Nah, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know what your brother's talking about, honestly.
I mean, hey.
You can't, dude. It's the middle of the season. How the fuck are you gonna force a trade? What are you talking?
Because he's
about?
LeBron James. Dude. I literally was looking today, and in the headlines, they're saying LeBron could probably force himself out of like LA.
I don't know, man. I think it's because he's about to pass the all-time scoring mark.
There's that. It could, like, honestly, like my brother was like, he could be leaving, or it could just be for absolutely nothing.
He only has 400 points to go. That's probably about 16 games for LeBron.
I can't stand
LeBron.
about
a month.
I really can't. I can't stand that guy.
Why, dude? He's a hero. What are you talking
He's
about?
great. Like, dude, he's a great player. And yeah, he's great on and off the court, but it just does. I can't stand LeBron James.
Hey, Chet, real quick, man. I was going to get the score of this game. Ooh, Georgia's up 17-7 in the first quarter. What's your final score prediction for this game? National championship.
I'm gonna go 42-31.
I'm gonna say 4. I was gonna say 49-31. So similar stuff.
There we go, Georgia. Give it to
pretty
the
Mickey pick. Georgia's the new Alabama, like I just said earlier.
Yeah, that's true. That was honestly a good point that you made right there because they kind of are looking like that.
Yeah,
but
I can't believe Matt said Stetson Bennett was the best quarterback.
That was the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That was such a casual take.
Did you see he just put it in Connect Team too?
No, he didn't, dude.
He did. Lying. He literally just commented that. Anyways, thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. We'll be back on Thursday, of course, to talk some playoff talk because that's what we're all looking forward to is the NFL playoffs. I can't wait to see what's in store. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week. This is Chet and Duffy signing off. And as always, even though the season is over, there's better luck next year. Go Pats.
Go Pats.